think it's like perfect.
This is really nice.
It's really, really perfect. But I feel like I could use like one more thing to make it even more perfect.
Yeah.
It needs to be centered.
No.
It needs to be centered.
No, just move it to the right a little bit.
Center.
No.
Centered.
Just move it a little bit.
Centered.
It should be
centered. It needs to be centered.
I don't know, man. Center is nice and all, but picture this. Off-center. Subtlety.
You can't have it on the left chest. You gotta blow it up big. People gotta see the crispy details. I mean, look at the crispy details.
I'm telling you, man. Off-center, and we just lower the opacity a little bit. Just way down. Look how good that looks. Ah! Off-center it is.
Then we use the plasma cutter to cut holes here, 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 and here. Then we attach cables here, here, and here. The cutter is available in Canada right now. Then it's off to scuba school, get the helicopter, and then to San Diego, where we strike on that Thursday when wind speeds are optimal. And that's how we get the games from the harbor where they're stuck.
Okay, so how long is this plan going to take?
About 2 months. So we're going to need a cover story to justify my house. This is complex. It's like heart surgery.
Heart surgery.
Yeah, we'll tell them that I'm getting heart surgery.
Approved.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Hey Mark, Unsettled's still coming, right? The community wants to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I need more specific. I mean... Mark? Mark!
1, 2, 3.
One, and place.
Krista? Mark? The games are delivering. I'm a hero. Lacey? Hi.
Hi.
Where is everyone?
I think I just got sucked through a wormhole.
You think you got sucked through a wormhole
Yeah, I got sucked through a wormhole.
and deposited here on the couch?
Yeah.
You think you got sucked through a wormhole and then deposited here on the couch on the day that we're shooting a wormhole video?
Yeah. Convenient, huh?
It is. Scoot over.
Okay, so welcome to the Wormhole. The Wormhole, if you don't remember from last time, is an event that we do digitally where we talk about news, new releases, and we do community AMAs.
Usually it's live. We're recording this one ahead of time so that on Thanksgiving, when we're releasing this, we can be with our families having arguments and questioning everything.
And eating potatoes.
Probably, and green beans. My
Yes.
family has good green beans.
So let's go ahead and just start with news, okay? So news from Orange Nebula right now. We'll start with Unsettled updates. So fulfillment.
Fulfillment.
is the big topic.
Fulfillment is happening. Fulfillment has mostly happened. So fulfillment is complete-ish in all regions in that it has shipped in every area.
One thing that we hear people talking about a lot right now is local pickup too. People who had signed up for local pickup. What's the situation with that?
Yeah, so the situation with local pickup is we don't have our games yet. So, if you have your game, you're ahead of us. We have games coming here on a pallet for local pickup. When they get here and we can say with confidence that we have them, then we can confidently set a date for a pickup event. We will have at least one big pickup event, and then if you're not able to come to that because it's December and people have lots of plans in December, we'll have backup days that you can come pick up as well. So that'll go out in a Kickstarter update and probably in an email to anyone who selected local pickup and CrowdOx. So just if you stay tuned to things with our name on them, you will hear what's going on.
And then anytime that we're shipping this many things in the state of today's shipping world, there are going to be some problems that come up. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh.
You were sucked through a wormhole.
Huh. Well, how was the heist?
This is fine.
All right, get on the couch. Let's go. Come on. Keep it moving.
Anyways, yes. So complete-ish. There are always packages that have problems that we have to track down and resolve.
You look good, Tom.
I know. And this time with the state of the world and shipping and just fulfillment kerfluffles in general, there are more problem packages than we have ever had before. And, if that is you and you have a message into us at groundcontrol@orangenebula.com, we will get to you. We will resolve everything. Thank you for your patience. There are a lot of them, so it's taking us time.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the reception of the game. Now that most people have it in their hands and they're playing it, the reception has been pretty amazing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's felt wonderful. The fulfillment stuff has been frustrating, but overall, like people getting the game and sharing about the game and posting about the game, there's a lot of activity in the Unsettled Facebook group, and it all is just glowing, and people's stories are full of energy and hilarity, and keep that feedback coming. It feels so good to read and see and be a part of the experience that you're having.
I love watching how people died.
Yes, there's nothing makes us happier than your deaths.
Or people left behind.
That's true. I've been those people
The hollow
before, and so it
victories,
feels like
yeah.
I'm not alone anymore, that there's other people being left behind on the planet while their teams are surviving without them.
Abandoned by Luna.
Abandoned.
Cold, hard Luna.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we've had a lot of people ask how they can help us. Everybody knows that with shipping and fulfillment the way it has been over this last year, that, this project actually was a loss to us. And so people wanted to know how they could help us. So we have a few things that you can do other than sending me snacks, which are...
Yeah, and I mean, the main thing people can do to help is just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, the energy in the group and in the groups and in the Kickstarter comments and just the warmth of the community and playing the game and bringing positivity and light and excitement, like that really is already helping more than we can express. If you're looking for really concrete actions that you can take to help, rating the game on Board Game Geek helps. Sharing the same type of posts that you're sharing in our community out in other board game communities so that people can learn about the game, or anyone who this would be a good game for, it can go on their radar. So when we do another Kickstarter, that Kickstarter is more successful. But just basically just keep sharing your enthusiasm.
Yeah, and then as we're looking towards next year and the next campaigns, we would just want you to show up, show up there with us and help move this game and this project into more people's homes. Let's get more people dying in space.
Yes, more people need to die.
Okay. So Another question we've been getting, or I guess it's not another, this is the first one that I'm bringing up. I'm sorry, I'm Cheeto drunk. People are asking, will Planets 5 and 6 and sleeves be available anywhere?
Yes, eventually. They're on the palette of stuff that has been coming to us since what seems like the beginning of time. It's, lost in a wormhole somewhere. But when those things get to our office, they will be listed on our website. They will be available. We'll talk about it on Kickstarter and in our newsletter. That day is coming, but the way things are right now, we just have flat stopped announcing release dates for anything just because it makes liars out of us every time. So when we have stuff, we will share it with you.
Okay, so then the next question that we get is about when the next Kickstarter for this is. So when are we thinking for the second run of Unsettled?
So our first goal was to have that at the end, Q4 of 2021, which obviously didn't work. Yeah, just because of the fulfillment issues that have ballooned. I still think that we can do this Q1 of 22 though, and so that's kind of right where we have our sights set, right in that February range. That's don't hold us to it. Don't hold our feet to the fire.
Don't hold us to anything.
That's right. So
But you can hold us.
Yeah.
Yes, but just not two things. Like, well, you've got us. That's enough. You don't have to
don't have to squeeze too hard. Yeah. We have been working really hard on additional content and trying to make sure that anybody who missed out the first time has a shot at all the stuff that everybody's enjoying now. Logistics and fulfillment nightmares aside, everything's going pretty swimmingly. Like, we're very happy. We've got a lot of people working on stuff, and so I would imagine right in February we're going to be able to offer quite a bit.
Yeah, let's talk about what will likely be in that Kickstarter.
Yeah, so rapid fire FAQ on that Kickstarter. Everything from the first campaign will be available again. There will be several new planets. We don't exactly know how many, at least 2. There will be some sort of cool community content building, inspiration, engagement thing that happens during the campaign. So basically, all your Kickstarter dreams will come true. Basically. And then after that Kickstarter, moving forward, the plan for the release of content for Unsettled is that there will be regular releases of new planets through the Orange Nebula website, announced by these wormhole events. So there's going to be this consistent flow of content for this game coming out of the wormhole.
Good.
Yeah, and all of that is going to be informed by the feedback that we get and the experiences that we hear about and the photos that we see and those types of things. So very excited about that.
Yeah, already the feedback we're getting is giving us a lot of really fun ideas or validated things we were already working on. Like, oh yeah, this is something people really want.
Some of them are crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think you're going to be really happy when you see what we're doing.
People like crazy if they're still alive.
Now let's talk about Vindication. So what's some news and updates? What about development? How are we doing on development of Vindication?
Yeah, so the Vindication Kickstarter is moving along on our part according to schedule. Okay. All of our file prep and development is all going about where we thought it would. We're getting files to the manufacturer in line with what we thought we would. So development on schedule.
Okay, what about manufacturing? How are we doing on the manufacturing side?
So just to tag on to that, files were sent a long time ago to the manufacturer and we've been doing proofing and all that stuff, and the proofing is also complete with the exception of like the rule book, which I think we don't want to get caned.
Well, and some of the paper elements we can do really late in the process because they're much quicker than the plastic bits.
Yeah,
and the
there's a few
bits.
cards and basically the rule book and cheat sheets that we're tweaking, but all of the stuff, like the component wise, has been for months done and sent and all of that stuff.
So what about manufacturing then? Where are we at with that?
So manufacturing is going as fast as we can go. There have been some power rationing mandates that are happening overseas in Asia that have affected a little bit the production, but again, we were ahead of the curve, and so a lot of the physical components and stuff like that have already been done for a long time. We've already had white samples coming through. All that stuff is done, so it's mainly just print. I don't know to what extent that rationing has set everybody back, but I know that they're working in 24-hour shifts, and so I think it's not a heavy deal.
They don't seem too worried in their communication with us. Yeah.
And they're kind of like, well, we're dealing with some stuff, but it's not really affecting their timelines. They're adjusting to it. So I feel like we're on pace for everything that is Vindication. And who knows about the fulfillment part of it.
That's what I was going to ask, is with everything that has been as haywire this year with fulfillment, what are our thoughts about it with this next project?
We just don't know. So I mean, development on schedule, manufacturing mostly ish on schedule, fulfillment, who the heck knows?
Okay.
Every single person you talk to in the world of fulfillment has a completely different story or prediction of what things are going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, a year. And so we just are basically assuming nothing. We will cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the updates I've been getting are that we've hit the climax of the pain, and it is slowly coming back down, but it's going to take several months for that to at least kind of stabilize.
All I could do right now was picture the pain scale, and I'm like, where did we hit on the pain scale between 1 and 10 during this time?
It's pretty high.
So if you are looking for more updates around Vindication, just stay tuned to us. We'll have it in Kickstarter. We'll have it in the mailing list. So just stay tuned for more.
We also have a lot more Vindication stuff on this Wormhole show. So stick around for like 10 minutes.
Or so. Have a snack. All right, let's move on to Spiritfire then.
Spiritfire.
Okay, when's the Kickstarter?
That's not a thing we do. We've never done that before. It's not a part of. It's not a thing. We're not going by that thing anymore.
Okay, enough. When are people to be expecting a Kickstarter, a real release of Spiritfire?
When are people to be expecting a release of Kickstarter?
Probably later in 2022. My feeling is it's going to be late spring, early summer. The real answer is when it's ready. So I anticipate it's going to be, we got a lot of work into it. We're well over a year into it. So it feels really good right now. We're afraid to share too much.
Yeah, it'll be the next thing after Unsettled, but we definitely are not putting a date on it.
All right, so if we definitely are not putting a date on it, let's at least definitely talk about what it is.
Let's definitely do. All right.
What is Spiritfire?
They know almost nothing.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, here's something. So it's hard to describe because we are trying to do something that hasn't been done before. And
also, the second we start describing anything, it's impossible for human beings not to draw conclusions and start making assumptions based on what they've experienced before. And we don't want to put this in some weird box where then if it's not that thing, you're disappointed.
Right.
So that's kind of why we're a little bit withholding.
I would say liken this to an MMO like World of Warcraft or something like that, where you are developing and progressing a character much like you would in an RPG or a role-playing game consistently and over time. So it is not a tabletop board game that you will play, have a session, be done with it in one night. You will constantly be crafting and learning disciplines and techniques. You will be exploring. And it is what I would consider, what we are shooting for is the greatest solo game ever, that type of an experience, but it's one that you can play with others in that, let's say Tom and Lacey and I are all at the table playing. We're all going to be doing our own thing at the same time, quietly, probably to ourselves, unless we're localized and an event or something happens over here and it would affect all of us. But it is, by and large, an independent game that you can play by yourself or you can play with someone else, but again, you're doing your own things.
Yeah, so mostly I'll be soloing, playing my character at home, but then if I want, I can take my character over to Mark's house where he has the game set up and play my character there, and we're in the same world, and we can interact with each other and interact with the world together, but generally speaking, like something like World of Warcraft, you can run off and do your own thing, and you can basically play it by yourself as much as you want to, or interact with other people if they're around. So it's a solo game, but it's a solo game that you can play with other people who are also playing their solo game, and you see how it's kind of hard to describe.
And there will be some interactions and some things that you can do in the same area where what you do affects what other people are doing. I would not consider it to be something where you're working together. It is much more like you would experience a video game or an MMO where you're constantly progressing, crafting new things, building your skills. And again, there's no combat in this game, so the encounters that you have draw much more on character development and traits and personalities and inner things that would drive how you might want to interact. Instead of having to fight something, maybe you want to turn invisible and go around it. Maybe you want to learn to fly. Maybe you want to do other things that seem magical or
That's my thing. Anytime anything happens, I'm going to say, I want to learn to fly, and the problem will be resolved.
yeah, unless you're downstairs.
Unless you're downstairs. Yeah.
Now it also has the module setup. That
Yes.
we've been-
So it's going to be the same general format, the sort of ONEB modular format that you're used to from Unsettled now, where there's sort of a base framework type box. And then in Unsettled, there are the planets that you plug into that box. With Spiritfire, it's going to be realm packs, realm boxes. So, you will be able to play in one realm and do all the things in that realm and encounter the resources and the things that you can make and the merchants and environment of that realm. But then you can buy another realm box for, a very small amount of money, like the planet packs. And now you've expanded where you can go and the type of resources that you have access to. And so the goal is to kind of create a situation where, I own the framework, Mark owns the framework, our friend Eric owns the framework, and everyone is, playing their character, but maybe I buy a planet or a realm and he buys a realm and Eric buys a realm. And so when we play together, like I can play in this realm that I don't own because I'm playing over at Mark's house. Or you can just own all the realms because completionist.
Realm master.
Yeah, because you're the realm master.
One of the key differences, I think, is this game, one realm could be 50 hours of content. Like you could spend a lot of time, just like you would in an MMO, exploring and learning and growing. You can go at your own pace, which is really cool. So there's really no timed events, and so you can spend all of your time farming materials and learning to be a better alchemist or whatever that might be. Or you're going to follow kind of these through line stories that and have encounters and those types of things. But overall, we're developing the game in such a way that I could spend 15 hours developing my character, but I could still play. And if Lacey joined in and she's just starting out, we could still be playing independently at the same time.
Right.
The same
You're both in the
table.
forest realm, but the things you're
Right.
doing are different than the things she's doing just because of the state of your characters. And one thing that we should point out that's different from Unsettled is when you're playing Unsettled, you're playing this planet, and that planet is an isolated thing. And then when you play another planet, it's like the previous play didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case here. This is a perpetual character that when you buy a new realm pack, you're just introducing more area for them to explore, more things. There's a through line where you can play them in whatever order you want. But it's like when they release a new region or whatever in World of Warcraft or any other online games, where it's like, now there's the swamp that you can go to, but you still have all your resources and items and storyline stuff from the forest, but now there's a whole bunch of new stuff to explore too. So the realms just to sort of expand the world that you're playing in.
Yeah, and it's not a campaign, but it is very deep. Like this game has depth. This is something that's going to be simple to play, and it has all kinds of. I mean, again, we don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a lot of cards, and there's a book, and there's a sheet where you're marking down your progressions, and it's an ongoing adventure, something that you can just keep doing, keep building. And there are end points to it, but this is something that you're going to buy. You're going to have the core framework box that you open up, and this is you. The first 3 hours of this is going to be you determining who your character is, and in a bond that you have with a pet, and then kind of determining what your through lines are as kind of an internal, like basically like rolling up a character.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole first premise is part of the fun and the joy of it. And then from there, you're going to like start the game, and then you can progress and you can interact with other people. But
And
again, you're doing
that's
your
what
own
a lot of the storyline bits. So, you will play a character, and that character has an objective, and it's sort of personal to that character, and it stems from their history, and so the motivations that they have in the world. And so you go out and you play through that character's story that's going to evolve and change from, when they leave their home or whatever. You leave the village and you want to do XYZ because of these experiences you had as a child, but then as you explore the world, you will gain more motivations and goals and things that you're trying to do. So you kind of play an story arc of an individual person, less than, this is the story of this world, and you just, do you want to do it as the barbarian or as the mage? But the storyline is separate from the character. This isn't that. Your story is your character. And so you can play through all these different realms and stuff, but you're telling the story of your character. And then you can start over once you've finished that character's arc and play through another character in those same realms or in different realms. And so the realms are really the platform for you to experience and tell the story of your character.
Yeah, and the realms are designed with all of the components and the resources and the crafting materials to be in the encounters and everything, and in the NPCs even to be specific to that realm, because everything is kind of geared to be its own unique fantasy set.
So, Krista, we're
Hi, Krista.
we're talking about Spiritfire.
Awesome.
I'm so happy you're here.
I am too. Where have I been?
You've been in a wormhole
Oh, yeah.
that we're pretty sure you summoned, so...
Mm-hmm.
So, the boys tried to do a job of talking about Spiritfire, but, as much as I like listening to them, I'd like to listen to you a bit now. So, you've been involved in this project a lot from the beginning. What do you want to say about Spiritfire?
So my part has been in the concept art and ideation, kind of getting into the world and exploring it from that perspective. What do I find there? Like, we need to create all these cards and all these objects, but where do they come from? What is the culture? And so that's kind of where I've been living in Spiritfire, which is one of my favorite things to do, is to go in with that kind of depth and spirit of exploration, get into the sketchbooks and just create, respond to what I'm finding, research kind of the different settings and draw inspiration from things there. And so it has just been a real pleasure so far to explore this world.
One of the things I appreciate so much about Krista is we have this mindset here at Orange Nebula that we don't want to get stuck in the meta. We don't want to create a typical fantasy world with trolls and dragons and elves and gnomes and stuff like that. So one of the things that Krista is really good at is ideating and imagining bizarre, interesting new things that make these worlds visceral, and they make them unique, and they make them, very distinct in texture and tone, and you feel like you're in the place as you start to encounter these objects. It would make sense, and this character would make sense to be in this particular setting.
Yeah, it's really fun working with Krista because we will have these big sort of world building brainstorming sessions at the whiteboard where we as a team sort of conceive one of the realms and what are the unique elements or the conceits of this realm. And, so we'll do that as a team and talk about how that might contribute to gameplay and all these different things. Then we'll all step out of it, and Krista will go to work, and 2 weeks later she'll come back and she's like, all right, here's the world building kit for that realm. And she has taken the things that we've talked about and exposed how shallow and lame they were compared to what she eventually came up with. And we'll just drive in on these different details and just make amazing things that feel so different from what's normal and what we even were expecting when we were trying to be not normal, because she goes wherever she goes in her brain.
What if we actually did a good
places.
job?
Basically.
Well, it's very interesting too, because the game design aspect, like these parameters, give me kind of walls and things to bounce off of and help me create new ideas that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And then that feeds into the world building feeds into the game. So it's a really fascinating, exciting process.
That question Tom just posed when he said you go off into wherever you go off in your brain, is it actually your brain you go off into? Is it your heart? Is it something in between?
Do you leave your body?
It is strange heart, brain, eye mesh thing.
Okay.
She goes to her mesh thing, and many wonderful things squeeze out. It's like cheesecloth. Yeah.
Love that.
Wonderful and terrible things.
So the working sacred concept for Spiritfire is a question, which I really like, which is the question, who could you be? So let's talk about that as a sacred concept.
Yeah. Initially, when we were brainstorming what we wanted this to be, we're talking about the experience. We're talking about why would anybody want to play this game? There's a million games out there in the this kind of fantasy theme, this fantasy fairy tale kind of mix that we're building with Spiritfire has an opportunity to be more of what people already have seen and done, and that's not what we want. So the concept of how you can immerse and truly role play and feel like you're doing something that you would do as opposed to playing out a character that Orange Nebula has designed for you is a huge, like, critical hinge on which we're building this. And so the concept of who could we be? Well, what type of a character would I be if I got to call all the shots? If I got to roll my character and design all their talents and techniques and disciplines and propensities and quirks and idiosyncrasies and this weird little thing about this character, if I got to do all of that, what would that look like? And so that's kind of the starting point for why we're even doing this. And so it is it's created some depth, and it's created a lot of texture in the game, but who you are inside it, who the character, like why they make the decisions they do, shouldn't be because I want an extra experience point, or I want to cast a new spell, or I want to become 0.2 stronger. The progression part is important, but how you approach different things, maybe Krista just wants to ride around on her giant phoenix, half the time. And I want to go explore, the subterranean caves or whatever. Like, you should be able to determine, like in an MMO, where you want to go and why and how much time you spend there.
And who could you be is a nice anchor point for us when we think about, like, what is the focus of the game and where are we drawing people's attention to when they're playing.
Does or doesn't this mechanic bring people back to asking what could they be?
Right. And that's what we want, is we want the experience of playing this to feel like you're having a personal sort of emotional journey that you're taking with your character or with yourself, as opposed to like the Dragon Queen is reborn and the world is in danger. Will you stop her?
Dragon Queen.
Unless you're the Dragon Queen. But like, we want to keep the attention on that sort of character building thing. We really want this to feel like a role-playing experience for people who are like Dungeons and Dragons curious but will never actually play Dungeons and Dragons, but the idea of role-playing a character sounds very appealing to them, but there's just something where that's not going to be part of their life. Well, in this, we want you to be able to come as close to that as possible, where you're focused on your character, you're focused on sort of designing who they are, and we want to ask questions less about like, will you beat the bad guy? And more about, still in a world with tension, but, when you start your journey in this game and in life, you have certain motivations and you have a certain sense of self, but then discovering along the way that like, maybe that's not the real true version of you. And maybe your sense of self is kind of a product of this role you've been playing with your family or with your history, as opposed to who you really are when you take a step back or take a step out into the world. And, so these are very like, flowery things that we do want you to think about and dwell on in this fun fantasy world where you're catching, fish made of, stone or whatever's happening.
There's so much more to fantasy stories than kill the monster, take its loot. right? And for me, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I've enjoyed that most of my life, but maybe it's time for something new. And how many other experience types are there when you're out actually adventuring in the world? You know, what are you going to encounter, and what can you do with that weird, shiny, you know, spotted leaf that you found? Can you make something, you know, a concoction out of that? Do you want to fry that up with some fish? Do you, like, what could you do? And it does require, again, a lot of depth, but I think we've built a pretty interesting system that's really easy.
And we're not even talking about like the main things going, like pets are a huge part of this game.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about another time. Just accept you're going to love your pet. It's going to be awesome. It's a big part of the gameplay. And then we have this sort of like interaction mechanic with this book that's very different than anything I've played before, that we can't really get into too much detail on without showing it, which we're not ready to do. But the general idea being, you know, there's this thick book, and depending on what you're encountering, you open to that page in the book, and you're going to be playing your cards sort of against or within the way that that spread of the book is saying the game is responding to you. And so they're not mini games, but that might put you in the right mindset that, like, in this context, I'm using my cards and myself and my abilities in this way, but the mechanism in which I use those cards to do this other thing is slightly different. And so you're using your cards, which represent typically things that you know and things you're capable of, and the way that you respond to things in different ways depending on the context.
You're going to craft or engineer every single thing that you have, and every single thing in the game is unique. Meaning, if I harvest wood from this tree and I get 3 of them, each of them are different. They have different attributes associated with them that you can use for crafting. So you can't make 2, let's say if we had health potions, you can't make 2 identical health potions, because each time you craft one, it's going to be slightly different than the other one.
Now, to be clear, everything in your box is unique from each other in the box, but my box is the same as Mark's box. Like, this isn't Keyforge where there's randomly generated. Totally, that piece of wood isn't the only card like that on Earth. It's the only card like that in each of the game boxes.
Right.
I just wanted
exactly.
Random distinction to make.
Okay, y'all happy? You say everything you wanted to say?
I think we've said everything you want us to say.
My transition voice came on. All right, now we're going to talk about the Outpost a little bit. So, where we been?
Where we been? The Outpost, if you don't know, is our podcast where we talk about creative things and making things and pop culture.
And inspired thinking.
Yeah, that's the tagline. The Outpost has been on something of a hiatus, partly because of COVID stuff, partly because of my absence, and partly because like 10 episodes that we recorded were destroyed by a technical issue. So
I think it was Luna.
Yeah. So the Luna created hiatus is ending. We're coming back. We're recording. We have recorded a bunch of new content that we're now editing together. What's very exciting about the Outpost, though, is that it is returning in sort of a multi-media platform.
You're gonna get to see us on
where
video.
you'll see us on video, much like this. So if you want to engage with the Outpost for the first time in a video format, subscribe to us on YouTube, where there will soon be regular video content like this.
And we've got ones that have Teresa in them too, so that'll be fun.
That'll be weird.
Time warp.
Time warp. Okay, good. So that's the Outpost. So now there's something new we want to talk about. It's a new, interesting idea from Orange Nebula called Introducing Pop Colony. Pop Colony is our pop culture retail store. Right now it is totally website based, but we've got plans for a brick and mortar store in the future. International sales are going to be happening through eBay. And what we're doing right now to the end of the year is a beta launch. Our major launch is going to be happening in January. Malia! This is Malia. Malia is the newest member of our team, and she manages most of Pop Colony. Malia, you just came through a wormhole.
Does that happen a lot around here?
Yeah, it does. It does. It happens a lot. Hey, wait. Before you leave, can you help me out and tell me what kind of things are going to be included, what people can find at Pop Colony?
Yeah. We have raw and graded comics, Dungeons and Dragons, and lots of toys and collectible. A lot of pop culture things.
Perfect. Okay, so other than that, bye. Thank you. That was fun. Magic the Gathering, Star Wars collectibles, geeky tikis, all the pop culture-y things. We'll see you over at Pop Colony. So anyway, why are we doing this? Why Pop Colony? Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this? I have no idea. I don't know. There's something inside us as we design games and experiences. There's also a draw to deepen those experiences with books and toys and the other types of things that we enjoy, movies and if you look really closely at what pop culture looks like right now, I think there is a lack of what the experience could be from a consumer standpoint. I think we want to do it the way that we would do it. We said that with board games, and now I think when we look at the things that we love, story-driven things, can we curate a deeper experience? Can we get into, classic, trade paperbacks? Can we get into comic books and Legos and Star Wars and, those types of things, and deliver something special, deliver something at a higher level, and curate, not just sell everything that's available for you to just kind of fish around and find the best deal. This is much more thoughtful and a deeper offering from that perspective.
Yeah, we like pop culture things, and we find though that often engaging with the world of pop culture, particularly pop culture products, is kind of grimy. It's kind of icky. Comic book stores, there are some wonderful ones. There are also some that I wouldn't want to take my kids into. I wouldn't want to take my kids into the average Magic store. There are great ones. Yours is probably the one, but most of them don't really feel like the type of environment that fits who I am. And we would like to make a retail space that feels right for us and people like us. And at the same time, also curate some of these things. Pop culture can be wonderful, but it can also be really trashy and a waste of your time. And we want to make a space that eventually you trust and you come to, not only for how you're treated and the way things come and the care with which everything is handled, but because you can sort of trust, like, if Pop Colony is carrying something, this is a worthy thing. And the goal is to almost make, eventually, particularly if we ever open a retail store, Pop Colony be like a destination that you would go to discover things, not just another spot to buy stuff.
Yeah, the conversations that we have in our social spaces already include all these things. We're talking about Marvel movies, and we're talking about whatever the greatest sci-fi book of all time is, in your opinion, and discussions about all of those things. Why not just expand our community and touch on some of those things if we can? There is a retail brick and mortar store in the works. It's something that we're working on. We're probably at least a year out on that, but we are in a beta right now for an online presence. We've got a website up. We've been selling there. We also have an eBay store, which makes things easier for a lot of people to find accessible. And we're going to continue to run that beta through the holidays until the end of the year here in 21, and then probably have some type of a grand opening in January of 22, where we actually sell new
23?
comics. 22.
Okay.
23 would be.
Sorry, I'm in a time warp. I don't know the answers.
You are in a time warp. Yeah. So no, we're doing it now. So we are an authorized, retailer for like Marvel comics, and we are with 3 publishing houses. If you like books, we are a bookseller. Board games, obviously, but board games also from other manufacturers and publishers. Legos, Star Wars, toys, Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, all of it.
And this is exciting for us because we want to not only, make things, but we also want to celebrate the wonderful things that other people are making. And we don't really have a great avenue for that right now. That's a direction we're kind of going to be taking the podcast in the future, is talking about some of those things more. But we want to be able to say, even in the game space, like Keymaster Games is making amazing things. Mind Clash is making amazing things. Like, we want to be able to celebrate those things and come around those things and talk about those things. And Pop Colony is a great opportunity for us to do that in a way that doesn't confuse the heck out of everyone. Like, why is this publisher selling someone else's games? Like, we can't do that, but we can do that in the Pop Colony space.
We also get to be generous and create small merch items and little collectibles that we get to give away to remind people how awesome they are. And that's a part of it. As a design, we have a design background. Most people know that we were a design agency and have been since 2000. So we're 21st year of design. We can make all kinds of cool pop culture-y things and design them ourselves and bring them into the market. And we thought maybe we can love on some people and set this retail space up as something that's really giving, and you get more for your dollar. It's not about finding the cheapest price for something. It's about finding that special thing that you either want for yourself or you want to gift to somebody else, and maybe there's a little something in it for you, a collectible sticker or a pin or a patch or something that just means more. And if we can do that, I think we should do that. So I think that's part of the motivation.
Yeah, it is. And one of the other roles that Pop Colony is going to be playing is Pop Colony will become the official retailer of Orange Nebula products. And over time, we're going to move the store for all our things off of the Orange Nebula website. You will buy things through Pop Colony, which, by the way, is still just us. But the Orange Nebula space will become more of this is the agency that makes these things. Buy them through our retail arm, Pop Colony. That is effective immediately for the EU and the UK. So later in this show, all the new releases that we're announcing will be available on the Pop Colony eBay store. They will not be available for those regions through the website, though don't worry, just if you want to buy any of the things that we announced today, go to the Orange Nebula website and we will direct you where you need to go. We're not going to make it complicated. But moving forward, Pop Colony will become the official retailer of Orange Nebula products, including many new things that we're not even announcing today. There are a lot of new stuff that we're working on, some of which we debuted at conventions, that are a little more, how would you describe, like Arcane Lands
and
Well, yeah, we are designing and developing things beyond board games. So, and I'm not just talking about merch. I'm talking about products that are coming into the marketplace. Yeah, one of them we did debut at a convention.
So I'm talking specifically right now about Arcane Lands.
Right.
So we're sleeves and play mats and things like that you would play with your other, that would have use for you in your other games and hobbies and things like that. Orange Nebula will be producing new sort of accessory type products that you can get through Pop Colony as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned Misunderstood, because we have another thing that we're going to announce.
Are we going to announce it now?
Okay, yeah.
So what Mark is talking about there is actually something called Orange Nebula Bazaar. And the Bazaar is the name of our new Etsy store, which we created because we can't sit still. So what can people expect there?
So it's an Etsy store. And the idea for the Bazaar is to create a home for our non-game things. We don't think of ourselves as a game publisher. We think of ourselves as a creative agency. And we want to expand what we make to things that aren't games and build the community larger and kind of become a bigger umbrella of people who are attracted to creative things but not just games. And to do that, though, we need to reach out to those communities and go where those communities are so that we're putting our creations in front of people who will care about them. And so there are a lot of non-game things that we want to make that would appeal to the community on Etsy. So that's where we are now to bring them in.
And one of the first big non-game Bazaar type releases we'll talk about now, which moves us into the next segment of our stream today, which is the new releases segment. So let's go in and talk about Misunderstood. So we debuted this Misunderstood series at Gen Con, correct? Is that where it first...
I think technically it debuted at Rose City Comic Con.
Oh,
but
yes, that's true. Our little Rose City.
You've now forced me to be that guy. Thank you. Actually...
So this series I love so much. Really, the idea behind it is this concept that the truth is hidden behind the surface most of the time, and that people need to be working very hard at looking closely and looking more deeply and being empathetic. The story of how this project was conceived, I love so much because it was inspired by a sketch that came from Krista. So, Krista, talk about the Misunderstood series a little bit and how it came to be.
Yeah, so that initial sketch was actually for a different project, but when the team was looking at it, they were thinking it was a sketch of Medusa. And so when I approach a character, it's kind of like, you know, she's seen as this monster, but what is she feeling? What is she thinking? And I guess some of that spirit was kind of in there. And so they started talking about, well, how would this look for other fantasy characters and creatures that we have kind of this one-sided image of? And so it started this whole brainstorming thing of the team getting together and like, oh, how could we reinvent our image and our conception of these characters? Maybe what are they thinking and feeling? And so we brought that into a series of pins and patches and prints, which are just like a little take that you can carry with you. And maybe you will relate and feel some sort of kinship to one of these characters or creatures, and so you can bring that along with you.
It's a pretty cool collaboration because Krista will do the initial sketching and illustrating, and then Kevin will take that into the vector world and do the graphic design part of it, and then the whole team's kind of involved, and we're building color schemes, and we're kind of conceptualizing what would be like a mythological creature, and like how could it be misunderstood, like, you know, and underneath all of that, there's just kind of a positive thing that I think our culture needs. That's like, maybe we just need to calm down a little bit and look for the best in things, and maybe take a deeper, closer look before we become kind of as judgmental as we tend to be. But I'll just let it go there. I think people can assign their own value to these things as they see them.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I think is special about the series, is that it takes these figures that you make assumptions about, and it juxtaposes a term that contradicts what that assumption usually is. Mm-hmm. And then you're free to draw from that whatever moves you, whether it's about you, whether it's about your outlook, whether it's about whatever. We just kind of want to put that out there and say, let this mean to you whatever you want it to. We've probably said more about it now than we ever will in the future, because we do just kind of want to let it speak to you on whatever terms come naturally.
And these are all available now for people.
Yeah, these are available as of today.
Yeah, the Orange Nebula Bazaar, the Etsy store, is more for our handmade, hand-designed things that are not going into necessarily the board game industry, like Tom said. And so if you'd expect to find it on Etsy, that's the type of thing that we're going to put on Etsy.
The next new release is, I don't have the title of it. What is it? The Rocket? Retro. The next new release is the Retro Rocket Pin. So what is the Retro Rocket Pin?
It's a pin of a rocket. It's
a retro rocket.
It's our rocket logo. It's in this sort of bronzy enamel. It's gorgeous. It's probably the most official thing that we have. The second we saw it in the office, it was an immediate favorite. It was a huge favorite at the conventions.
Probably
Everyone
the
loved
most
it.
we've ever liked a thing.
I like it more than I like myself.
Kevin's actually the reason that the rocket looks so amazing. Great job, Kevin.
Hi, Derek.
Oh,
hey.
Hey guys.
You're on the Wormhole video.
Hello.
We were about to...
Answer this call.
That was on Do Not Disturb. I do not understand. We were about to introduce the hoodie. Do you want to introduce the hoodie?
The hoodie is coming. You've asked. We've answered. Kevin, you want to tell them a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so this hoodie is a dark gray and black hoodie that we are calling the Dark Nebula hoodie.
Dark Nebula.
It's very thick and very comfy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have the Dark Nebula ONEB patch on it, and on the pocket, we're going to have a little hem tag that is super subtle, but also in a cool spot, just like ONEB style.
Super subtle. The patch is going to be great. It's going to have like that tactile feel. So you can rep ONEB wherever you go, but subtly. Super slick.
And when can they order that?
Right now.
I think pre-orders are open now.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Can you get off of me now?
Oh, yeah.
See, here's what I don't understand. It literally is on Do Not Disturb mode. Why is it ringing?
So nice to have Kevin and Derek here.
Yes, that was pleasant.
The next new release we're talking about is Vindication Shadow Boxes. Can we see them? Can we see them, please? Oh my gosh.
So these, we saw these at Gen Con for some other, IPs. Artovision put these together. I met Stuart there at Artovision, and I thought, what a cool kind of collector's item type of thing for Vindication. And so we have a limited amount of these I think we're going to offer up if anybody wants them or likes them. They're incredible. I don't know how much glare is on that shot, but they're three-dimensional paned images. This one is of the cover art, and that one is of Z from one of the most beloved pets in the game.
Yeah, so pre-orders are open on these. Like Mark said, they're a very limited collector's item. We probably won't make them again, and when they're gone, they're probably gone, unless there's some insane demand for them. But they're very special. The second we saw them in the office, everyone was squealing and stopped working.
I gasped big time.
Yeah.
Very, very high quality. Like all of this is super well made. It's kind of heavy. It's just nice. They're super nice.
Great. Okay, so the next new release is the Luna Beverage Tumbler.
Yes.
We're so excited.
Which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a nice beverage vessel. It keeps things hot. It keeps things cold. It is not like cheap, flimsy, garbage branded cup like you get at your job where they're like, here's the cup with your company logo on it. Like, this is a very nice mug. It has Luna on it, so that, I didn't need to hear anything else. And it comes with a promo Luna card for the game, Unsettled, which Luna appears in.
Oh, yeah.
And the card is fun. The card is a gag. Okay, we do not like when games gate content behind things. You want to play this character, you have to spend $100 on all these other, books or whatever. Like, this is not that. This is a clearly silly card made on completely different card stock. It's not linen finish. It's just a silly thing, but it is fun. And if you buy the cup, you will probably have fun once or twice using the gag card. Yeah. But the selling point is the cup. Ignore the card. It comes. Don't freak out about it, though. Everything's okay. We're with you.
Selling points, Luna. The last new release that we want to talk about is kind of the feature new release in today's segment, and it's the Overgrowth promo pack for Vindication. It's 15 new cards in this promo pack, and Krista, this was a huge project for you. Talk about the inspiration and the theme for this project.
So the theme is deep forest.
Okay.
So it introduces that kind of natural exploring element. Also overgrowth as a theme, like strange things growing in the forest.
One thing we talk about a lot is, okay, this is 15 cards, okay? It's going to be fun. It's going to add to your gameplay. But what we love to think about is the depth behind it, the thinking that went into creating some of this. So what was your process like to create some of these characters? I'm really excited about it.
I went out into the forest and found what I actually found. So for one of them, I found a stick that looked like it had many eyes. And so that became a scrying antler.
I love it. What other characters do we have that we get to look forward to?
We have Bo, burrowing boulder bear.
Okay.
We have an aerial beaked blight. And there's also a giant snail and a baby mushroom. So...
Oh my God, there's a baby mushroom.
There's a baby mushroom.
I have one of your old mushroom head, like living mushroom stickers on my laptop.
It's even a baby. It's smaller and cuter than that one.
Are you serious?
It's a baby or a mushroom.
Its name is Cap.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cute. So what about the mechanics behind it?
Yeah, so it's more Vindication cards, but they do sort of deepen and expand some of the twists on mechanics that the newer promo packs have brought in, like equipable relics and pets that equip to you instead of your companions. And so if you've been keeping current on the promo packs, the new elements that have come in are expanded upon. And it is available for pre-order, but what we're most excited to have been able to work out is that it will be shipping at the same time as the Chronicles campaign, and we have made it so that you can add this promo pack to your existing Chronicles pledge. So if you go and unlock your Chronicles order, you will find the Overgrowth pack is now on CrowdOx, and you can add it to your pledge with no increase in shipping, which is the thing we were most excited about. This is a pack that was just part of our regular schedule of making new promo packs for Vindication, but the timing on this one just came out to be perfect to where we could get it to probably most people, because I think most fans of Vindication have backed the Chronicles campaign in some capacity, and now you're able to add it to your pledge without having to pay any more shipping, which we were very excited to be able to do.
So if people haven't backed Chronicles...
If you haven't backed Chronicles, you can just pre-order it through our website.
Okay, perfect.
If you did back Chronicles, you can return to your pledge and add it.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's time to move on to Community AMA. Y'all ready for some questions?
No.
No.
It always gets weird.
Whatever. You have to say yes. You have to say yes. Are you? Whether you're ready or not, we're going. Are you ready, Krista?
I'm ready.
Okay, at least
She
she's
said
ready.
yes. Even she can't get it right.
It's fine. We're going to be fine. Everything's fine. So now we're going to move into our AMA section. So we are not live, again, because we are at home eating. Well, we're alive. We're at home eating potatoes right now, fighting with our stupid families. But we curated all the questions that we have from Facebook and where else?
Discord
and everywhere.
emails.
So we're going to start with a
Messenger,
question.
pigeons.
So, question from Daniel G. Will there ever be any sort of Vindication Unsettled crossover? This is Justin. Justin does all of the media at Orange Nebula. Justin, will there ever be a Vindication Unsettled crossover?
Probably not.
All right, well, thanks. Bye. Just crawl your way out. Get out of here.
Really trying.
Okay, another question from Levon B is, what is the tone of the setting of Spiritfire? It's obviously a fantasy setting, but what kind of fantasy setting? What's it going to remind us of?
Well, I think it's probably not going to be an epic fantasy setting. We've likened it to, an MMO like World of Warcraft or something like that, Lord of the Rings, but I think it's going to have a little bit of that fairy tale aspect, something a little lighter and more endearing, and not so much tension for war, and a lot more tension for the unknown and wondrous.
Yeah, I think fairy tale is a really good word to grab onto. In my head, anytime I'm working on something like relating to this game, it's more of a like fairy tales, Studio Ghibli, maybe Legend of Zelda vibe than like epic high fantasy Game of Thrones vibe. It's much more like forest spirits and sprites and glowing lights and like, things that are mysterious but kind of make you feel good and that they're mysterious. And it's there's still tension. There's still like a world with darkness in it, but it doesn't feel like grim dark fantasy.
Yeah, but I will say the visual language is deep and textured, so it's not going to be super light when you look at it. It's going to feel like there's eons of story behind everything, and so it feels very dense in that sense, but very endearing and light, like a fairy tale would be.
Yeah, I think the word fairy tale really captures like that balance of wonder and terror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fairy tales are wonderful things designed to teach children about terror.
It's true.
So this in that same ballpark.
Great question, Levon. All right, Tobin B wants to know, how long until another Vindication Kickstarter? How long?
Will there ever be another Vindication Kickstarter?
Ooh.
Is a better question. Sorry, Tobin, you were close.
We are not planning one at this point.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, like, these intellectual properties we're working on are designed to perpetuate and go on forever, persistent worlds. But right now we are really focused on Unsettled, and Spiritfire.
Yeah, we'll continue to grow Vindication with more promo packs like Wintertide and Overgrowth and things like that. But as far as another Kickstarter, this is pretty much going to be it for a while.
Okay. Stacy A wants to talk about miniatures. She wants to know if any of us have painted our Unsettled miniatures, and if so, did we paint them to spec or did we go a little bit more wild? Attack onto that, what do we like to see more from the community? That to spec painting or those kind of wild painting that they're doing with their miniatures?
I like the wild stuff. I look a lot at what people post, in the Facebook groups especially, but also in Instagram. I love seeing everybody else's creativity come through, and it's not just that I don't have the patience to paint. That's primary, but I am more inspired by watching other people go to work on these than I think I don't think I would ever hold a candle to what the community's doing.
Yeah, we haven't painted ours because we don't have ours.
There's that.
I did at one point paint. We had a 3D print of one of the Explorers that was much bigger that I painted to spec boringly. But what I like seeing, I agree with Mark. I like seeing the ones that sort of push the envelope into a different space. But most of all, though, I just like seeing that people are painting them. And full disclosure, that is something that we talked about going into Unsettled, that if the game has a small number of miniatures, it works to making people feel more comfortable engaging with painting them, because you're talking about 5 minis. Mm-hmm. Like we were hoping that the small number of minis would make you feel less intimidated to get in there and try to learn to paint and have this be the game where you finally cross that threshold from, oh, painting sounds fun to painting's a thing I'm actually trying. And most of the people we've seen post pictures of their painted miniatures are posting them with some sort of verbiage along the lines of, this is the first time I've ever painted.
Yep.
And that makes us very excited to hear, because that we were literally hoping for that in those terms.
Practice on Unsettled, because when you see Spiritfire, you're going to lose your mind.
Oh, amen to that. Pets.
I love the glossy finish of the black helmets.
That is always the best.
Mm-hmm.
The glossy finish of any of the helmets, the like pearlescent ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. All right, Bjorn K is coming in. Bjorn K says, thanks for making the pandemic a little less boring. You're welcome. Love the things the ONEB team does. Right now, we're enjoying the stupidities of space exploration and fungal frenzies. I love it. That should be just the tagline, Unsettled. Space exploration. The stupidities of space exploration and fungal frenzies.
Unsettled stupidities.
In space.
So that's just
point.
a thank you, really,
Yeah, that's the reason why we wanted to do these things, is let people enjoy them in the way that they're going to enjoy them. And the stupidities is definitely planned for.
Honestly, the Unsettled project was already worth it to us before it even came out, just because of the way the community has come together in the various groups meaning Facebook groups, but also on Discord and other places, to just engage with each other, particularly during what was a hard season and still is in many cases. And just everything around the project has been so much fun, and that has been almost as satisfying, if not more satisfying, than the project itself. So if you're now having fun with the game, to us, that honestly is just like
that's frosting
piling on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the point too. Crazy times, you can put those aside for a couple of hours and go enjoy this with the people that mean the most to you.
And have different crazy times.
Hashtag fungal frenzies. All right, let's move on to Thelonious Bunk. Thelonious Bunk. It's good to hear from you. Thelonious says they're very interested in Spiritfire having no combat. Conceptually, they say they connect with it a lot, and they're curious what this means for the energy of the game. Combat is often a driving tension, and they say it's a driving tension in every non-Euro game they have. So what does that mean for the game?
I think that's a very good question. I think it also speaks to the reason that we're making this game have no combat, because I think what they're talking about with tension, where's the conflict coming from? Where's the tension? What's driving you forward and compelling you? And what we're hoping to establish with this game, or ask people, or asking ourselves while we work on it, is, conflict comes in life from many, many, many different places. Very few of them involve violence and combat. But for some reason, in board games and video games and all these things, typically, particularly in board games, which hasn't had the time, I think, to expand past it, you know, if you're having an adventure kind of game or a role-playing kind of game, almost always the conflict comes from combat. But combat and conflict are not, you know, synonymous. You can have lots of different types of tension in, you know, you can have conflicts with nature. You can have conflict of wills, conflict of words. There's many different ways that you can have conflict with the world, and we try to lean into those with this game as opposed to combat.
Think about your life for a second. Like in real life, how much combat am I actually engaged in on a day-to-day basis?
I have young children.
Physical combat? Well, yeah, there's that. I think the majority of opportunity exists outside of that. I think combat is maybe 2% of what we could explore, and that, like Tom said, that is the point of this game. Maybe crossing this chasm is the problem I need to solve right now, and there's 50 ways that I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think back to the sacred concept of what could I be, the conflict, the tension is between what is and what could be. And is that, I mean, that's what I feel internally every day. What is and what could be in my mouth. Like Cheetos. Frosting.
Yeah.
Should I go on?
No. I get excited thinking about how much there is to explore here, because I feel like we have an open box here. Like there's so much we can do here. And the fact that Thelonious is saying, you know, combat is the driving tension in every non-Euro game they have. That's the point. Like, that's so limiting. You know, the decisions that could be made in a story, like think of all the books you've read, all the movies you've watched. I mean, sure, combat is a part of those, but if you remove that out, what's left is rich and deep and textured, and there's so much opportunity there for people to approach things from a very different perspective other than how can I beat this down and take its stuff.
We got most excited about this game when we made the decision to just flat out remove combat. Early on, you know, there was combat, but we wanted the focus to not be on combat. You know, it's like there are other ways to deal with things. Like, yeah, you can attack this thing and fight these wolves or whatever, you know, fungal wolves. But, you know, what if there were other ways to handle it and all that? But when we finally came around to, you know what, we're just going to make a statement that there's no combat in this game. Like, that is when everything kind of clicked into place, and our enthusiasm for the game went through the roof, and all these other ideas started spilling out, and the whole thing really came together when we decided that we were drawing that line in the sand, that this was going to be a game with zero combat in it.
By the way, I think the tension is increased. You know, Alfred Hitchcock said the biggest monster is always in your mind. And if that's the playground, we can make things much more terrifying and scary and opportunistic than monsters. And by the way, there are tons of monsters in this game.
Okay, let's move on to Vidmaster. Vidmaster had a question. It's an important question. Who will be dyeing their hair awesomely to replace Teresa's?
Not it.
Derek. I mean,
I think Derek's the obvious.
It's got to be Derek.
Derek, you've been volunteered for hair dyeing. What do you say?
What hair?
Touche, Derek.
The next question we're looking at is from Slipshod. Slipshod wants to know, was Teresa ever even real?
Just delete the entire thing. All of it.
I'm culpable in a massive cover-up.
We're talking about prison for decades. Now, Daniel G wants to know, how are you doing? Can the community support in any way?
We're great, Daniel. Thanks for asking.
That's a wonderful question. You know, the community has really rallied, I think, in a way because of some of the things we've expressed about how fulfillment has gone and things that were outside of our control that have had a really, truth told, negative impact on our company, especially financially. But everything that the community is already doing is great. You know, being present, coming into the spaces, talking to us about the games and your experiences with them, and just engaging and being warm and being yourselves. That's exactly what we need. That is the way to help.
Just be positive and look for the light in everything.
Our next question is from David M. Any teasers about upcoming planets for Unsettled? Oh, well, great timing, Jared. You've been working on a planet for Unsettled.
Yeah, but did I come?
You
through
came.
one of the,
You came through a wormhole.
You came.
One of those unsettled wormholes.
You came.
Yes.
Well, you came.
We've
through a
set
wormhole.
this. You're late to the party. Everyone understands that there was a wormhole.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You're.
All right.
So anyway, you've been working on a planet for Unsettled. What is it?
Well, yeah, I have. It is a vine planet,
'Kay.
and it is called Koguya.
Ooh.
And the primary fun bit of the planet that I like, that gets me the most excited, is that I wanted this planet to feel like a struggle to gain mobility. And as you increase your mobility, it will feel like you are swinging through the planet. I wanted some Spider-Man energy grappling hook. I wanted you to feel like you had mobility unlike anything on any of the previous planets, and that's where I find the most fun. And so I shoved that in every corner of the planet.
I love it. Good job shoving.
Great
now
shove.
I'm going to shove
Great.
you again.
Oh, no.
Goodbye. See, back through it's a two-way wormhole.
Just for him.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one of the planets we have coming. There are a bunch more in development. We have a planet that's more of a like ancient building where the whole thing, you're inside this giant temple, and it's about getting the right key spheres to unlock doors. There may or may not be a planet where Luna is rogue, and the main goal of the planet is to contend with Luna.
You leaked it.
I did.
It's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. And many other things. There is a planet that is focused almost completely on fun, cute creatures that all your interactions are about having a little army of critters.
Oh, I love it.
I'm obsessed with that one. And no one else has actually heard about that one until this very second. So that's the thing that's happening. And yeah, lots of great planets coming.
Perfect. Next question. When is the Unsettled TV show coming out? It's not? Why are your eyes so big?
Yeah, I don't want to like start any weird rumors. There's not currently an Unsettled TV show coming out. That would be great. We would love that. Obviously, you would love that. You've asked this question in a fun leading way.
That's Sindri H.
But that's not a real thing that's happening yet.
Okay.
If you know someone who's capable of making that happen, please put them in touch with us, because we will pursue it with them.
I was like, what else are you leaking? I don't even know anything about this. Is it a TV show?
Okay, I'm going to just keep going. Ryan WS wants to know what... Oh, Ryan
Yeah,
WS.
that's right. WS. Yeah.
Okay. What's the process for planet design? Gosh, that's a big question. What's the process for planet design?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really large question. I think the biggest thing that we talk about when we're designing a planet is mostly about reining things in. So, we'll come up with a setting and a world building. We usually start with the world building because that's the most fun. What if there was a world that was like this? And then from there, we come up with like, what are the one or two sort of unique elements of this planet that we're going to be engaging with mechanically?
Mm-hmm.
And then the challenge is to stop right there and make those elements touch all the parts of the game and be interesting in all the parts of the game, and really have it so that whatever the planet is doing to you, that mechanical thing, all of your breakthroughs, or a majority of your breakthroughs and your anomaly powers and things like that, all involve you adapting to or gaining power over or learning to utilize that unique thing that the planet does. Early on in planet design, the problem we were running into is we were trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
This planet has all, these 24 elements, and then each one of them was touched on here and there, and it didn't feel very cohesive, and it felt kind of sporadic. And what we've gotten much better at over time is realizing each planet really only needs one or two things, but then you make it influence everything that's going on.
Yeah, abilities and mechanics are kind of like spices. They're very potent, and you don't need too many flavors to make something taste good.
Yeah, and then every planet is different. Each one has started from a different place as far as who was working on it. Was it totally something someone did on their own and then brought to the team and the team refined, or we started on it as a group, or some of them start really heavily with this is just world building and we have no mechanical ideas. Other ones have started with it would be really neat to make a planet where this mechanic is a thing, and then we've had to figure out what world would make that possible. So they are all very unique sort of in the process that they come to be.
Yeah, and the process of designing a planet has to do with how can I create an experience that's different than the other planets, not how can we theme it differently in your different place doing the same stuff. Nobody cares about that, including me. So
Amen to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's a great answer. Steph K wants to know, how much are you missing the energy of doing these shows live? They're talking about like the fact that this is a pre-recorded. I think here's what I miss the most. I miss the most being the one who's responsible for looking through the questions, and like I'll look through and see things many minutes before anybody else knows what's going on, and you can see me in the live streams, like I'll smile as I'm watching comments or questions come in. So I miss that.
Yeah, that's the part I'm missing right now too, is just seeing like all the energy of people saying things and responding to that.
Lacey misses God mode. Is that what I'm like? Where you're
what I heard.
seeing what nobody else is seeing?
I have never felt more control in my life than the last live stream where I was like, if you want your question answered, put a snack, asterisk snack before it, or asterisk food, and like and it happened.
Lay it before the altar of Lacey, and you may find favor with her.
That was maybe that was a peer moment for me. You've never done a live stream with everybody, have you? Or were you on the last one?
I have not. I need most of the stupid things I say to be cut out, and then I feel good.
So this feels better for you, this pre-recorded
You've
version.
said so many stupid things that we've had to cut out. It really is shocking.
It's a whole episode.
Yeah. Look for the 78-minute long blooper reel of just Krista saying stupid things.
It'll be great.
All of the words just turn into nothing.
Okay, Kevin T wants to know, I'm interested in the changes that happen during development. For example, in Unsettled, the rest action used to be optional and didn't cost time, and breakthroughs used to be shared instead of individual. So how do these big mechanical changes happen over time as you're working on a game?
Well, everything narrows in the design process as you simplify the game experience, and early on things work, and then when you make the most minor adjustment or fine-tuning, it affects everything else around it. And so as those things change, those are not arbitrary changes. Those are changes that have to be made to protect the sacred concept of the game or the sanctity of the experience of fun, of playing the game for fun. And so we do, at the end, there is a little bit of, revision, some red marker that still comes out where we have to modify those things. Like I'm just reading here. The rest action used to be optional, didn't cost time. Balance of the game required that we made some changes globally.
And the word fun that you just said really is what it comes down to, because at that point of development, things are being constantly play tested, and we're getting these surveys back from people. And the question is, are they having fun? And with which parts of the game are they having fun? And to get into the weeds of your questions here for a second, the rest action is a great example of that. So what we found early in the game is we had time put on all these different actions you would take, because that makes sense. You go out in the world, you do things, they cost time. But what we found was that no one was engaging with the game because they were so terrified of spending time. And we would get these playtest reports back, and people are just turtling up in a corner and not doing anything and then not having fun. And yeah, that's a choice that they were making, and they were kind of basically choosing to have a not great experience. But the point is, they were not having fun, or as much fun as they could have. So then when we made the rest action mandatory and put the time symbol on there and removed it from a bunch of the other spaces in the game, then all of a sudden the advancement of time feels like something that's happening to you regardless of what you do. So then people went from like being scared of advancing time and just sitting in a corner to, I have to run around all over the place as fast as I can to do as many things as I can. And so then it was like the fun quotient went through the roof, because people felt sort of free to run around and do stuff against time, as opposed to, oh, I better not spend time. And fun is also the issue with breakthroughs. We really liked the idea of shared breakthrough abilities. it fits really well with what we were trying to accomplish with the theme of the game. You were working together as a team. But one of the things that we found, there was a day that we switched the breakthroughs onto individual players almost as a kind of random change just to try something. And the amount that increased positive feedback was like night and day. People liked having their own agency to affect the space and to feel like they were doing something, and this is my power that I'm using to help everyone, as opposed to these are shared powers that we're all using. And all of a sudden it just made the game more fun, and that's why those changes happen most of the time.
The heart of your question may be, why wasn't the game done when you posted the Kickstarter? And to that I would say that we will continue to improve the experience of the game as long as we actually have time in the timeline to do it. If we can continue to make it better, we will. And then at some point, we're going to say go.
Okay, good. The last comment or question that we have here is from Brecht, who says, not really a question, just a short message. Keep up the awesome work, kindness, enthusiasm, and care. It really comes across in the games as well. That's so sweet.
I'm very glad to hear that.
That feels good.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that it comes across in the games. That was a very nice comment. Because we conduct ourselves, lovingly or whatever in the like social space and in Kickstarter updates and things like that. But the fact that they're picking that up from the games means a lot to hear.
There's a lot of moving pieces in this, and I don't think anybody sets out to become wealthy making board games. Or going through puberty.
You
maybe.
lost it there in your throat.
Yeah, I did.
It's true.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's true though. You don't come out to you're building a community, and that's really where the treasure is in what we're doing. It isn't in income. None of us have excess in that way. But
the joy of making and the joy of sharing are where it's at in this industry, in my opinion. Because this has been a very painful year, but you know what? There's going to be more in the future, and we learn to be resilient, and we appreciate the community being positive with us, and we will do the same for you. Everybody's got this stuff going on in their life too, in different ways it manifests, and it means a lot to hear that stuff.
Definitely it does. Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for coming along on this little ride with us. It's super fun. I hope the energy came through well. I loved getting to spend so much time with the group here, putting this together. All the new releases that we talked about in the new release segment are available now at orangenebula.com. Orange Nebula Bazaar is over at Etsy for you to go check out. popcolony.com you can go check out. So you've got lots to do in between stuffing potatoes in your face, if that's something that you do today. Y'all got anything else to say?
That's what I'm doing.
I was just thinking about potatoes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went into a potato coma like preemptively.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you so much. We adore you. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So where is Teresa?
She moved on to something else. You didn't hear?
What?